Good morning, and I'm not quite sure what's happening here because now the simplest of things is we've lost the cursor. There it is. So what we're going to do is because it's closing, it seems all right for the moment. We'll have a go. Good morning, and let's play the intro just for the sake of playing. No, it doesn't. So I think what we're going to have to do is the floor in this thing is just still there. We will have to do away with our videos that we prepared because this system just simply won't tolerate them. And we'll have to see what we'll do about that. But anyway, Stuart Dolby is here. As a senior journalist, he understands the industry very well. He's being the coffee boy. He's getting it ready before we actually dive into our day. So I hope everything is now working, and that after 2 minutes and 28 seconds of farting around, is we're with you. But then again, if we actually manage, oh, there he is, like bold as brass, comes in late, starts to tell me what to do.
I wouldn't dare tell you what to do.
How are you this morning, Stanley? So we'll have to do without videos, but then what you've got is Laurel and Hardy. And since Glyndebourne have been showing old movies, undoubtedly we'll be invited down there as star guests.
Yes. I'll take care of this, Stanley.
Get your singing voice on too. Right, good morning. And after that little bit of a stutter, here we are, and we can take a look at a few things. First of all, let me tell you about the weather, because today it's going to hit 10, which is quite high. And it wasn't predicted yesterday. It was supposed to go very cold. It's predicted to go very cold again tomorrow. But it did start off at -1. And oh, I can hear that coffee bubbling in the background. It's wonderful. I'll be able to smell it soon, I guess. And we're going to have some drizzle throughout the day, apparently. And although the scattered cloud is still very scattered, don't go out without your Macintosh and without your hat. Now, I was out on the streets last night. Oh, was I out on the streets? No, I actually went for dinner with the mayor, Stephen Catlin, and our two guests from New York, Melissa Conti and her son Connor, both of whom contribute to Mirador. And in fact, Melissa has been here with us for almost from the start of our experiments with local television, which go back some 6 or 7 years. And she has come over specifically. Well, she wanted to take a little peek at London to see what it's like, but from New York, where she lives, where she and Connor live, and is visiting here. And she will be in later today, and Stuart is going to try and be here, and one or two more are going to try and be here. So we'll do a little special program with our New York guests. But anyway, we had dinner last night and a good chat, and learned about all the gossip in New York. Never mind about the gossip in Lewis. So that's I've forgotten now what I started to tell you, but anyway, be careful about out there, because it's not going to be a terribly pleasant day. Now, let's just take a look at a couple of the local issues before we move on. And in Hastings, according to one news source, and I say one news source because as good journalists, we should really check out at least 2, if not 3. But some fishermen blocked the lifeboat from going out to try and help some refugees. And feelings are running pretty high, I would imagine, on the coastal areas about refugees coming in and people dying in the channel and so on and so forth. And the fisherman said no to the lifeboat. It eventually did get out there. Common sense prevailed. But it's that sort of vigilante type activity that is beginning to give me some concern, because more and more we're reading about in Sussex, and East Sussex, and particularly Lewis, which has always been a low crime area. More and more people being attacked and crime, and it's not petty anymore. So that sort of activity is of considerable concern. And the search for the missing Alexandra, I think, Morgan, out of Hastings, has intensified. She's been missing for 2 or 3 weeks, and they've lifted a guy, thinking that he may have done away with her. But they haven't found her yet, and so it's an extremely accelerating crime issue, if you like. For Sussex, we got new predictions of snow. You love the snow.
Yeah. I like the snow for about half an hour. After that, it's awful. All this black ice.
Can't take it, these older guys.
Well, look, listen to me. Listen to me. I'm 77. You're much older than me. And do you ever remember a white Christmas in your lifetime?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes,
because I am
much older than you. As a matter of fact, one of the things that sticks in my mind, and it didn't seem unusual at the time, about the 1948 winter, which was really fierce. And I mean, it started to snow, I think, in about October, and it didn't give up until March. And post-war Britain, I was still living with my grandparents out in the country, out in the outer regions of Sutton Coldfield. And I can remember walking through snow banked that high to go and get wood because the coal people couldn't deliver, and we didn't have central heating in those days. Oh dear me, no! Once the Romans left, we left it behind.
Yeah, you know. I mean, the Romans, don't forget, they invented almost invented a forerunner of central heating.
Yeah, you did indeed.
And what else did they do that was very interesting? Proper ventilation, all kinds of amazing things.
And they introduced vines into Britain too. One must remember.
Yes, quite so.
But one of the things that did amaze me is I was reading up on Julius Caesar's early attempts to invade Britain, and one of the things apparently that the Romans saw were that the ancient Brits were driving chariots with wheels.
Yeah.
And they hadn't got, at that stage, they hadn't got wheels on their chariots. So everything we see in Hollywood is post 44 BC.
Yes, but you have to, Hollywood, you have to allow a little bit of artistic license.
Well, you do indeed.
Absolutely.
Yes. Julius Caesar was a good guy.
I mean, apparently Boudica was an ugly looking woman. And then you just see her in the movies, she looks like, oh.
Yeah, I'll take the movie version. Oh, now we're going to have the feminists after me. The other thing is that the new timetables are kicking in for the winter timetables. So do check your train times. If you're used to going down to get, say, the past, and you trot down and you suddenly find that it's now at 20 past, the new timetables there. Okie doke. Let's take a look. And this morning, the national papers are almost all about COVID and your favourite people, the Johnsons, and what they're saying and what they're not saying, and what one is saying and what another is not saying. So the Metro is the London paper has got Omicron, and apparently they are talking about bringing in the army to try and shift the vaccine around the country as fast as possible.
They did this last time. They did it last time. It's a very good idea, actually.
Yeah,
they're very good at logistics, the army.
Well, actually, they are, aren't they?
Very good.
To move an army takes a lot, and so the army apparently are being brought in, according to the Metro. Anyway, the Times, the PM pledges booster jabs for 23 million by next month. My God, that's a lot of vaccine.
Promises.
Yeah.
Promises.
And I haven't had my letter to get yet another one yet. Have you?
Yeah. Well, a new booster.
Yes, it's a new booster.
I've had the third booster to the Spicer one. No, I've not heard.
No. Well, I mean, I'm a bit confused. I've had the three, including the flu shot, which I think did protect me over the last 2 or 3 days because I had a bit of a cold. but it was nothing more than a cold. So I'm not going down with the flu, I don't think. I hope I'm not. But I understand that because of the new variant, is that they're rushing out a new vaccine to try and contain it.
Well, that's not clear. You see, they said that apparently it is very infectious, but they weren't quite sure whether the vaccines that exist can cope with it. So they said it will take 2 or 3 weeks before we know whether the existing vaccines are able to control the new strain, if you like. And that's what they don't know.
Well, anyway, they're not taking any chances. And actually, I heard a comment last night. I was listening in the conversation. I shouldn't, I suppose. That people were being very loud. But their view was that thank goodness that the government seemed to be acting quickly this time, because last time they dragged their feet, and that was
absolutely. That's very common among most of the papers today, I think. The thing is, what really I've been wondering about is that Boris needs to be loved. He needs people to like him. And if he does impose another lockdown, do you think there will be protests on the streets, or some kind of, not revolution, but some kind of mass protest? Because the people I've spoken to don't think they can sustain another lockdown. It's an impingement on our freedom and all this, that, and the other. And
well, I think, Stuart, my own opinion is that yes, there would be, and perhaps the fact that some fishermen took matters into their own hands in Hastings and tried to stop the lifeboat is indicative of the way people are feeling about things. Whether it's right or wrong is quite beside the point, because it's emotional reaction. But I mean, we know, for instance, just exactly what that last lockdown did to us here, when we damn near didn't survive.
What you mean, your business? Or you?
Yeah, the business. Well, I know I'm tough as old boot. It's not like you. We've got a layer of alcohol somewhere there that protects us from everything.
Speak for yourself.
I have to tell you that, if I'm going from point A to point B around town and I go past almost any pub, I can guarantee that I'll find Stuart there having a pint.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much.
But actually, now I'm going to make a very serious point, because you are Lewis born and bred, right?
No.
No?
No.
You've been here a long time.
Yes, but not all the time.
Oh, you've been away like me, yeah, but I mean, when did you first? I thought your parents were here in Lewis.
Good grief, no. I was born in London, and my parents were Londoners. Yeah. I came here in 1966 because I was one of the first undergraduates at Sussex University.
Right. Since he was 18.
No, I think I was 19. No, 18. You're right. Anyway, and I fell in love with the place. And when I made some money as a war correspondent with Financial Times, in fact, I was the first and so far only full-time war correspondent the FT's ever had. And war correspondents make money, not on expenses, but because of exchange rates in the country you're in. Right. So I came here, and I was able to, I invested in a Hong Kong Stock Exchange. I was able to buy a place here in 1975. And I've had it ever since, and it's been a golden thread running through my life. But I better keep it quiet now, because I don't want to be accused of being a DFL, which of course I was, because I had home in London as well. But anyway.
Listen, you can go into any pub that I've been in with you, and you know the bar people, you know the regulars. I mean, I'm not suggesting you're a drinker, you're just very well known around town.
Am I?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't actually quite understand that, because people in the street now.
They're looking at your bloody ugly mug every day, along with mine. Oliver?
I don't think people have called me, people say I've got a very nice mug. So that's a terribly joke.
Vanity.
No.
I don't think, to be quite honest with you, that there's a couple of anchors that they're going to put us on the front page of Hello.
Look, what you really want me to say, Keith, is that since I've been appearing on Mirador, people are coming up to the street and saying to me, "Hello, Stuart." Hello, Stuart. But in fact, they're not.
They are me.
But I am actually quite well amused that people I haven't got a clue who they are coming up and say, "Hello, Stuart." I say, "Oh, hello, how are you?" Quite weird. I think some of it is that just call me ugly, but apparently I've got one of those faces where I look like someone else. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Particularly Rick Stein. Apparently I look like him. I don't know who he is, but he's a chef or something, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rick Stein. I thought he was a comedian. I have no idea. All I can say is that hasn't happened to me since about 1961 when somebody mistook me for Adam Faith.
Oh, really?
And like a fool, I said I wasn't.
Right, yeah.
I should have played it up. Anyway, rather more sobering news from the Daily Telegraph. New COVID restrictions to last until March next year. So the things that we're being told to do now, social distancing and putting on the masks and so on and so forth, is we're going to have to put up with that until March, according to this story. I think.
Why have they said March? That seems a bit arbitrary, doesn't it?
Well, I think that probably March is considered the end of winter.
Yeah, I suppose.
My guess is that Boris or some people in the government have said that this threat from this new virus strain is going to last right over the winter, and that puts March in the frame as perhaps they can either relax it or something will happen or a benchmark. But anyway, it looks as if it's not.
But the seasons have all been all over the place for the past 3 or 4 or 5 years, haven't they? I mean, we entered winter sort of very early, did we this year? Or
did winter come early?
Well, we didn't seem to have any summer, did we?
No, we had very little summer. We had about 2 weeks, didn't we? Of very hot weather.
Yeah.
But then the thing that I've enjoyed is we seem to have got autumn back. I mean, we're just coming out of it now, but we've had rather a nice autumn with leaves falling from the trees and the.
I love autumns. I love September, October because I suppose it's partly to do with it's the new start of the year. It's like when you start going back to school or you start going back to college or whatever it is. I find that the start of the year is not January; it's sort of September. You sort of.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I quite like. I mean, I was up in Vermont in the States one September, and it was absolutely golden, turning the trees and all the rest of it. Wonderful. But that's the same thing here.
Sometimes.
I mean, I'm fortunate enough to live opposite the paddock, and almost on the paddock, and seeing all the trees, turning is just quite a nice sight to have.
Yeah. Well, this year we've had it has been all the trees around Lewis have been, I suppose, around the country have actually reacted to the season. Yeah.
But actually, I used to, when I was in Cambodia, I used to entertain the troops, as it were, by singing "Autumn Leaves" by the lady who sang it. What was her name? German lady. And I started a rendition, if you like. There's autumn leaves, the west by my window. There's autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your face, those summer kisses.
I apologise if you're getting indigestion from your breakfast because of this.
I used to hope.
Is that the same woman that sang Lily Marlene?
Yeah.
What's her name?
What is it?
That's what happens to two old buffers, you see. We can remember the song, but we can't remember the name.
Since you've entered,
I mean, she was a particularly good actress.
Oh, she was wonderful, yeah.
And very good in movies, and particularly just immediate post-war movies. Yeah. Anyway, The Guardian, the PM clashes with health officials over new curbs. And once again, this is one of the problems with this government is one person says one thing and another person says another. And the Guardian is saying, once again, we're getting mixed messages as how bad this virus is going to be. And Boris is saying Don't worry, you can go and have Christmas as usual and don't alter your plans. And that there are some health officials in his own cabinet saying, do worry, you might just have to alter your plans. So once again, we're getting mixed messages.
Well, he said that last year, didn't he?
Well, he says it all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But the trouble is that we never know. We never know.
Well,
I mean, you're going down to Worcester, is it tomorrow?
Up to Worcester.
Up to Worcester. Well, across to Worcester.
all being well, apparently there's a bit of a snow problem up there.
Well, that just underscores what we said earlier in local news, and that is watch for the train times, because they are altering for the winter. Mind you, it's a long time since I've only been up to London about twice this year, I think, or 3 times. And I don't know whether I miss it or not. Stuart, do you miss going up to London?
No, not really.
I don't either, really. As life is too full down here. Incidentally, Tony Johnson, studio manager, is he sorted out this photograph of what we call Sir Genry, but that's the helmet of a medieval knight. And since there are a large influx of people who are coming into Lewes and sometimes say, what's this about and what's that about, is if you haven't been down to the Priory and you haven't taken a look at the ruins, the remains of the Priory, which they started to build in 1079, I think it was. I mean, it's remarkable. And although Henry VIII pulled most of it down, the foundations that are there is what they were building in 1079. I'll tell you, is they should put to work on some of the council houses, because those things have lasted well over 1,000 years. And I don't know a council house that's done that.
I mean, they've got wonderful walls, haven't they? Wonderful illustrations of what's inside.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And one of them is almost crazy. One of them is almost devoted to the monks' ablutions.
Yes, is monks sitting on the loo.
Monks on the loo, so it goes into the loos.
But if you are new to Lewes, I mean, if you're visiting, or if you have come to live here and you don't know much about it, it's in South Over. Go down, because first of all, this sculpture, I think they call it, it's about 7 or 8 feet high, and it marks the Battle of Lewes in 1264, which is accredited to the start of English democracy, because the barons defeated the king, who wasn't willing to share any authority at all, and almost the very next day they went up to Westminster and formed. We wouldn't call it a parliament now, but it was the first start when a group of people got together and started to debate what rules and laws we should have. But Stuart is absolutely right. There are little drawings and so on around where there are remains of stuff to say what it was, and it's a fascinating history, and it dominated the town. It dominated the town until the mid-1500s.
Yes, right. Well, it's because it was clerical, wasn't it? It was the Grenada, the wife of William de Warenne.
That's right.
Who William the Conqueror had given Lewes to. Part of his fiefdom, I think it was after the Battle of Hastings, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think William de Warenne got from Lewes probably down to Hastings, didn't he?
Well, I don't think he got quite that much, but certainly a good chunk of both going from here east and going north as well. I mean, I think that they had Norfolk and all sorts of places. She actually, Stuart is right, prompted the building of this. It was a Cluniac monastery, and the fact that parts of it are still remaining. And before we blame Henry VIII for absolutely everything, some of the good burghers of Lewes, the moment the thing was down, came and got the bricks. And Southover Grange is built from bricks that they pinched, they nicked.
Unfortunately, not a lot of it's left. I mean, quite a lot of the castle's left, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we were showing Melissa and her, giving her a quick tour last night, and showed them the castle. And actually, although part of the castle is gone, there's still a substantial amount there. You can see.
You can go right to the top of the castle, and you can see right over.
Absolutely.
And see all the secret gardens of Lewes. When you walk down the High Street, And there's all these gardens behind. It's really quite nice. But also in Southover, don't forget, is Anna Cleeve's house.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that was it was
Tudor mansion. Yeah,
it was given by Henry VIII just to get rid of her, wasn't it?
well, part of the divorce settlement.
Yeah,
I understand. Yeah,
she never lived there. No, she never lived there. It's actually again,
we both went round knocking on the door saying, "Can we see Anne, please? This is not at home."
yeah, not here.
Right, the star, our wonderful star. Give us a kiss, and it says that the mixed messages for Christmas smooches. Party snogs are off the festive season, or maybe not. It suggests. Now,
Why are they off the festive season?
well, because of the new, you and I are not supposed to hug anymore.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. We were not even supposed to shake hands in the morning.
That's a relief.
So who the hell's going to make the coffee?
I come in with a mask and antiseptic and a pair of gloves, you know.
And, PM, don't cancel your Christmas. The Mail is taking on that theme, and really, once again, the headlines this morning are saying he's saying one thing and some of his officials are saying another.
Well, yeah, I think there was a dysfunction within in the cabinet, not in the cabinet, but in the office, the Prime Minister's office. They don't seem to talk to one another. Or I mean, nobody. Well, you saw that example of him trying to read that speech to CBI. What a laugh that was! Do you remember?
Yeah.
I mean, so obviously the person who put the speech together must have messed the pages up.
Mind you, reading the news, it was always a big fright. These are the days before you had a proper auto cue and so on. And you kept moving the thing across, and in case you got it wrong, and you read on and it didn't make any sense. But they should know better than that. Now, this is an interesting one because the Mirror likes to put the boot in, of course.
Yeah.
And his Boris party broke COVID rules. So you read through and you think, oh God, there they go again. It's one rule for them and another. But if you read carefully down through the article, it was this time last year. Which is a bit naughty, I think. Well, for a headline it is. Anyway, the Daily Express, Rishi, my actions prove I'm a low-tax Tory. I think that he's coming under pressure with spending and so on and so forth. But he says, I promised to lower taxes before the next election, and I'm going to do it. The only thing that worries me, Stuart, about taxes and any party, it doesn't matter left, right, or in between, is they will lower a very high-profile tax, and in the meantime, secretly increase it so something like VAT. So you don't notice that what they're doing is they're clawing it back.
It's quite. I can't remember who it was. Was it after Callahan? But direct taxation, the direct of your income, has been a total mantra running through the governments for years. That you mustn't put direct taxation. So you've got to find indirect like VAT and other sort of taxes. Mind you, I got a bit of a whammy for my pension. Because I think I'm in a 40% bracket, and I had a swipe at that.
Oh yeah.
So I'm actually £112 per month.
Yeah. They give you the one hand and take
that
away.
That was very sneaky. We didn't get to hear about that, did we?
No. Yeah. Oh no, they keep quiet about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
That's because most of the Conservative party have got one foot in the grave anyway, haven't they? Yeah. People who support all these knights of the shires,
I can tell you, if you add our two ages together, we haven't yet reached 50.
Actually.
Right. Listen, this is your Financial Times. Now, Stuart was one of the great reporters of the Financial Times, and going to places like Vietnam and Cambodia and so on. So he's always interested in. And it's talking about Powell. I don't know whether that's Colin Powell. Signals on more rapid taper for the Fed bond buying spurs market sell-off. What I think is saying that they've eased something in the United States so that people are buying more bonds. Yeah. What's that all about?
Well, because of inflation, basically. I mean, the bonds inflate.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, when inflation really takes off, then they have to do something about interest rates, right?
Yes.
And in the States, see, what you've got to remember is the Chinese have got nowhere to put their money,
Right.
Because the EU won't take it. So they invest in US bonds. And, you know, so America is very, very heavily in debt, way beyond its, 13 trillion GDP. So they got two blind men holding one another up. You know, the Chinese and the Americans both don't know what they bloody were doing. You know, so
well, whatever it is, it'll impact on the rest of us eventually.
yeah.
The sun, someone must have died. Now, for some reason, I watch so little television and stuff now, is that some lady, actress Sheridan Smith. Who is Sheridan Smith?
I haven't got a clue.
Nor me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'll tell you that, what though? It was Marlene Dietrich.
Absolutely, Marlene Dietrich, yes. Oh, yeah. There's oh, yeah, she's very sultry. Very sultry.
What was the other famous one? Underneath the world.
If only we knew the words. We'll look up the words and sing it one morning. Someone must have died. This is a sort of a non-story that the Sun would pick up. Is apparently she crashed her vehicle, her Land Rover, and then walked away from it and so on. And then somebody comes along and sees it and says, "Oh, look at that smouldering wreckage. Somebody must have died." And they look into it, and they can't see anybody. So there's suddenly a great mystery. Now, that is really creating a story out of nothing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, what do you expect from bloody Rupert Murdoch? You know? I mean, when I was telling, you know, I used to do a bit of mentoring at Sussex University on media things. And I said, if you read an article which says, sources close to the Queen said, it's been made up because sources like the Queen do not talk to the media, or a source close to the Secretary of State for this, that, and the other said to it, that's made up. So unless the name is there, you shouldn't say that kind of thing.
The only exception, I suppose, was, and I understand that really it doesn't exist almost anymore, it was the old lobby system.
Yeah.
Where you could talk to a cabinet minister and he would tell you all sorts of secrets on the basis that you only said a source close to government.
Yeah.
And lobby correspondence really played by those rules.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the lobby correspondence exists anymore, do they?
I think they do. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that's what the papers are saying this morning. If you've caught any of that between our going backwards and forwards, let's just see. It's oh God, we've been rabbiting on for 33 minutes, would you believe? And what is important for us here is that it's going to be a bit drizzly today, according to the weather forecast. That it's going to rise to 10, which is much warmer than we could expect. And actually, strangely enough, our American guests were feeling the cold last night in Lewis, and I thought that it warmed up. It was much nicer than usual. But
have you ever been in New York in the winter? That's really cold.
Yeah.
It gets really, really cold.
I haven't actually been in New York in the middle of winter, but I have been in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And I have to say that in those days, you got off the plane and you walked into the terminal.
Yeah.
And I had never been in that sort of cold before. And I got off the plane and I thought I was having a heart attack.
Oh,
what it was the hairs in my nose freezing. And the sensations. It was cold. It is cold. And I was dressed in Vancouver stuff because it's very mild. But no, you're quite right. I mean, it can get very, very cold. Very, very cold indeed. In fact, my late wife was born on the prairies in Canada. And she says that she could remember as a child where it would be minus 10. But the chill factor, in other words, the wind would whip up. And take it as much as below minus 30.
The wind is the problem, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's only a gentle breeze today, so we don't have to worry about that too much.
Oh, we can keep our hats on. So.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So there we are. That's some sort of a roundup of the news. At least we've had a little chat, and you haven't had a go at Boris yet, so you won't get a letter from him. Every time he has a go at Boris, Boris sends him a letter saying, "I'm very disappointed in you, Stuart. You're letting the family down."
Well, that was when he was a mayor. The mayor.
Right, in London. Yeah.
I was the chairman of the Friends of Women's Clubs, which is a charity trying to protect the green space behind the famous prison. And he wanted to build a viaduct across it. And I invited a lister, deputy mayor, to come over. And I said, how much does this viaduct going to cost? He said, oh, about £500 million, 500,000. I said, well, I've spoken to Transport for London, who are supposed to be doing the communications or the things on the scrubs. And they said they can do a two-station solution, not a viaduct, two-station solution, 200,000. And he said, really? I didn't know that. I'll tell the mayor. So he comes back and writes me a letter and says, dear Stuart, I'm so upset that you seem to think that. And by the end of the letter, I was almost agreeing with him. And that is the thing about Boris. It's the way that celebrities have colonised politics.
Oh, haven't they?
Yeah. Because he's very good on television and he's nice and chubby and funny and all the rest of it, doesn't mean he can run the country, does it? It's the same situation you had with Trump, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very much so. I mean they were Andy and Pandy or whatever. Yeah. Okay, now it is time to get a wee bit serious because Stuart comes in and does this with me on a Wednesday morning. He co-hosts Break an Egg, but then he goes off and does his own program, which is called what's it called?
Energy Matters.
Energy Matters. So you'll see him later today. And Energy Matters runs for a week before he comes back again. But he said to me this morning, I've got a few very important things to say. So perhaps we can turn to energy for the moment, Stuart. Can I ask you one thing? And at first I thought it was a scam. But I got a letter from in the usual buff envelope, and it said that under certain circumstances I would be given £150 or something like that against my electricity bill, not my energy bill, against my electricity bill. I thought it was a scam, but then I looked it up on the web, and no, it's not. Do you know anything about that?
No, that sounds to me very bizarre because, well, they've got this thing, a plan that they want to electrify all 85% of our houses are heated by gas.
Right.
Now, after they want to phase this out and replace it with electricity, in fact, they're suggesting that we all get air-fueled heat pumps or heat pumps, underground ones. And to start with, the thing about air-fueled heat pumps is that they can't reach and sustain the same level of heat that gas can do, point one. So that means you've got to spend a lot of money. Well, for starters, getting an air-fueled heat pump costs you about 10 grand. But that because they can't sustain the heat, you've got to pay for more radiators and more, facilities and so forth. And can people afford 10,000 quid? Well, in fact, they don't have to afford that because you get grants, and the figures range from sort of 3,000 to 7,000 grant, depending on your circumstances, I think. But I still feel that it's going to be very expensive. You've got a lot of fuel poverty coming along because of it. Well, I suppose look, energy, the cost of energy is the second largest outgoing after rent or mortgage payments. So someone, say, who lives in a local estate, funnily enough, I'll tell you later, that the local council, district council here, one of the things it's done is actually decarbonise all the council houses. And I said, hello, that doesn't make much sense to me. Decarbonise it. That means they got rid of the gas boilers. Come on.
Yeah.
I might look stupid, but
and what did it turn out to be?
Well, it hasn't turned out yet, has it?
Right.
We don't know.
No. So they said they've done it, but in fact, they really haven't.
Listen, I've got a list of along your arm, which I will read later on today, of things that said they were going to do, and they haven't done.
Right. I'm almost used to that. Right. Okay. Now I sidetracked you there because of this offer that I've got. It hedges its bets. It says, if you qualify. So I have no idea whether I qualify or not. I suppose what I've got to do is to show the holes in my socks or something. Well,
the point about it is that say an air-fueled e-pump, your electricity bill would be twice what your gas is. Twice.
Right.
Just,
double the
just
cost.
Use it. Well, no, because it's expensive to make, isn't it? Electricity.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, what you're saying is that the price actually is reflected in what you pay to your energy company. Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, there are a couple of things that we're getting you quite excited about energy. What is the latest situation, and what is it we should be watching out for?
In what sense? In what sense?
Yeah, any sense at all to do with energy and price rises and the mishandling of it.
Well, various people are saying that the Ofgem has messed up all along the line, but they set an energy cap twice a year, April and October. And Martin Lewis, who is this personal finance expert, he reckons that the average now for a 3-bedroom house in the country is £1,280 a year. Now he reckons it could be going up by £700 next April, because
extra 700 a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that may or may not be correct, but he's usually correct about these things. Well, the thing is that the whole policy has been wrong, telling everybody to switch to cheaper suppliers. So you've ended up now with this oligopolistic cartel of 5 companies who are just going to put the charges up as near to the energy cap as they can. For example, last April, the Ofgem decided they were going to put the cap up by 10%. So the big 6, as it then was, it's 5 now, set their prices at 9.5%, as close as they could get to 10%. Now, if next year they put the cap up to say 15%, well, it's going to go up, enormously. And the government, well, its regulators, has failed to actually properly, probably deal with the marketing of price of energy.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just go back then and take a look at what's going on this morning and see if there's anything particularly that strikes you as requiring good expert comment. NHS booster jab for every adult by the end of January. Omicron. You did make the point that if the army is going to be brought in to distribute a new vaccine or old vaccines more widespread, is that's a good move on somebody's part.
Sounds like Dad's army to me.
But you made the point that while we often think of the army being militaristic and wars and so on, but logistics they are very good at. I mean, they know how to move things, don't they? Yeah.
There's something to do when there's no wars going on.
But I always remember talking to an American who said, that they admired the American army for getting ice cream to the front in Germany during the Second World War for Christmas. And we in this country couldn't get an ice cream.
Well, Americans are like that, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it was important that they looked after their troops.
But yeah, and I used to have Bob Hope going with the very pretty girls dancing around him. Do you remember all that stuff?
But just let's stay with this just for a moment or so. I mean, would you sound as if you would approve of using the army try and distribute vaccines, particularly since it does seem to me that if they're going to, what is it saying, 30 million people or something by the end of January.
Sounds a big ask, doesn't
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, could the army do it?
Oh, I thought so. Yeah. I mean, they you know, you just drive up to these places and dump out on the. You know, I really don't know. They are well. Obviously, you've got to have very, very good logistics. If you've got frontline troops, for example, you've got to make sure. You remember that famous phrase when Operation Market Garden or the bridge too far, that kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
They were expecting some kind of thing from something to enable them to make a further advance. And there were all parachutes contained boxes of berets. Just berets. I mean, they were expecting sort of armed guns and machine guns and God knows what else. And they get a load of berets. So things can go wrong. And I think that they're very good at logistics. They're very good at, you know, getting things in the right place and moving men around particularly, but also getting people in the right place.
Yeah. You just, was it Rudyard Kipling that boots were during the Indian wars, or wars in India, we should say, rather, is that they delivered all sorts of boots, but they're all left foot. We returned a lot of soldiers where the feet have been deformed into having two left feet. I must say that my wife always said to me about things, I got two left feet. I said, bloody clumsy. Okay, yeah, it is. There we go. We see the headline in the Times. The PM pledges booster jabs for 23 million by next month. Now, 23 million jabs. I mean, that's presumably 23 million people. That's a hell of a lot.
It's half the population,
yeah, isn't it?
What is it? 66?
No, we're about 66 now, aren't we? Yeah. It's gone up a bit. Let me take things aside, because I think your opinion is quite important on some of these issues. We're talking here about getting 23 million out and so on and so forth. But what was your reaction, Stuart, to the fact that some fishermen became a bit militant and tried to stop the lifeboat going out? I mean, it said that eventually they backed down, but even so, that sort of thinking is. Do you think we, as a nation, we're getting into that volatile? Because you asked the question yourself: are we likely to see riots on the streets if they go back to a total lockdown? What's your view?
Well, the lifeboats are different because they're putting themselves at risk as well. I mean, do you remember that boy who jumped off the quay and swept off the quay in Newhaven? And the guys, the boat nearly overturned. So they've got to think about themselves, really.
Yeah. I
mean, what good are they doing if they're going to actually sink on the way? If it was a question of migrants is very, very, very difficult issue, isn't it? Really, they come over here and they don't do this and they don't know that. But while we sort of let's face it, Britain is a soft touch as far as immigrants are concerned, right? And they do get nice houses on the HSS and so forth. On the other hand, Mrs. Merkel said we're going to get 1 million, and she pulled it off. To great, resistance and so on and so forth. Are we a country that is actually going to help people? And these people are fleeing. They're not. It's not a political thing. It's economic. And these people, what would you do? I mean, they've got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But then again, the argument is we are a small island and we're all very, very crowded already. And they go to affect the school population, they affect and so forth. But I grew up in Paddington, which is a very poor district in those days, still is, I think. And all the what's it? We're not no much no. What was the name of the boats that came across?
Yeah, the carrying the West Indians on. Yeah.
What they called not Windrush.
Windrush, yes. This is.
And their children were all put into our school. A lot of them were put in our school. And I met some of the parents, and they were very, very nice people. They were Labour, because we were shortage labour after the Second World War. And the kids were very, very polite and nice, and they weren't actually preaching hatred or that kind of thing. And yet we've had that racism going all through forever.
Yeah, I sometimes think that's manufactured by people who just want to cause trouble. But anyway, that's another day for another discussion. Could I just give you a side note that you mentioned the lifeboat in New Haven? And New Haven actually was the leaders in establishing community lifeboats. In fact, I think that the lifeboat institution was some 20 years later than New Haven had a lifeboat by public subscription. And that started because of the name has escaped me now, of an English man of war that went on the rocks. And there were 105 people on board, and 104 drowned. And the townspeople could hear the cries and couldn't do anything about it. And they said, we can't have this ever happen again. And in fact, some of those people are buried in the little church at the top of the town, up the hill, the Church of England, which actually is also in line of sight of this site here, because it was a spin-off of the Cluniac Priors, and you can see the church in New Haven from the Priory. But anyway, the some survivors, and I believe there is a plaque there to this ship, and it spurred New Haven people to have a lifeboat long before the rest of the country ever had them. I mean, before there was a national network. I mean, sometimes we tend to give New Haven a bad time because it's not the prettiest of towns, let's face it.
It's an industrial port. But I don't know if you've been there recently. No,
yes, I have. I lived there
the French
in the summer.
The French bought all the West Bank, didn't they?
Yeah.
To maintain the tourist business. But the other side is now becoming very industrialised, being done up and all that kind of thing. But it's always been a bit of a tricky port, that they used to have one banana boat from West Africa coming in, and of course it was made like the Hastings fishing village. It was made for drugs and God knows what else. And getting into that harbour was very tricky because I remember once we'd been over to Dieppe and we couldn't get back in. We were literally out at sea, bobbing up and down, for about 9 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, apparently it was. I don't know if it's changed since. Because it's very, very difficult to get in
around that. I mean, there are a couple of things that I discovered when I was investigating New Haven. Apparently, at the train station, there was a very popular hotel where people, in the days when train travel and ferry travel was a sort of a wonderful experience, and people would go and stay in that hotel. And one of the people that stayed in it regularly was the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo.
Oh, really?
So New Haven has got all sorts of things about it,
Well, do you know New Haven's other claim to fame? Ho Chi Minh used to work on the ferries going to Dieppe.
Did he really?
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ho Chi Minh is a great star in New Haven. I think they were going to think about a statue of him, and I don't think he got past the planning people. Basically.
They also had, in the First World War, a big Chinese community. Because China had signed a non-aggression pact, so they couldn't take sides militarily, but they could provide labour, and they did, and some of that labour went to the New Haven port, and apparently they lived in total harmony with the people in New Haven. There was no ethnic problems at all. New Haven is a fascinating place, actually, and of course it's very old, and I forgot what it was called before it was called New Haven.
The point was that back in the day, didn't they go somewhere else?
Yes, it went to Seaford.
It used to be the main port, so Seaford. But when they were going to turn, it went over to Seaford, didn't it?
Yes, there was a shift in the And one of the nice stories is, and Charles Dickens was amongst the crowd when the good folk of Seaford blew up Seaford Head so that they could divert the ooze back and turn Seaford into a port again. And after, all this great stuff came down. It was apparently a wonderful blast and so on and so forth. It all came down. And then they went away. And within 3 or 4 days, it had gone because it was chalk. And the ooze had dissolved it.
Well, wasn't Seaford going to be the new Brighton and a big tourist place?
Well, it could be because it had some very
Yeah.
big names living in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Margaret Rutherford lived there or went to school there or something.
Yeah.
And if you actually look up Seaford and the names associated with it, there are a lot of very, very famous names, including Dickens.
Gracie Fields used to live in Beeshaven, didn't she?
That's
She had
right.
that posh house there, yeah.
And then wasn't Clementine Churchill lived there in
Yeah,
Seaford?
that's what I think she
Yes,
did, yeah.
he came and wooed her there. Apparently.
Yeah.
There we are. And with all this stuff, it's 8:56. We've only got 4 minutes left, would you believe?
Yeah.
So one last word from you, either in the news this morning or from the energy field. Any erudite words?
Well, just to say, I think our energy bills are going to go up again, quite severely.
I mean, is there any way of avoiding it, or do you think it's just going to happen?
Well, I can't see it not happening because the price has gone up. The gas price has gone up.
Right.
And when, of course, Putin's playing is actually making the most of it, because he's got quite a lot of gas. But then again, he's been thwarted by what he wanted to do was to get this new gas pipeline opened. It's ready to go. And so it would mean that he would be able to sell more gas to Germany rather than Ukraine, which he does at the moment, because there's a lot more Germans, and it would be so he make a bit more. So he's playing geopolitics basically. But in fact, he doesn't actually send. They don't send much to us. So this has been a mistake that Putin's messing up our supply.
Actually, it is interesting because I know that a lot of people are very nervous. I'm just keeping an eye on the time here. Are nervous about China and Russia because, as you point out, China has got nowhere to sell, and Russia has got if it doesn't export its gas, it's got nothing else to put in its place.
Well, the difference between China and Russia is that Russia's a failed state. I mean, all it's got is oil and gas.
Right.
But China's done amazing things since it shut down communism. With roads and buildings and unfortunately coal plants. Well, I mean, when I was mentioning one of the people at Sussex University, a Chinese girl, and she said, "Stuart, you've got to remember, there's an awful lot of us Chinese." So when they say, "Oh, China is building lots of renewable energy plants or wind farms and this, that, and the other," but then there's also been a lot of coal because they need a lot of both. You see what I mean?
Oh well, this is from Ghana. Somebody who's watching the show saying she thinks we're great.
Oh, right. Thanks very much.
Right. Yes, Sarah Devine. Well done, Sarah. Thank you very much.
What does it say?
Yeah. Well, she says she loves watching the show, and she loves watching, as she said, my buddy. And that really does take us up to 8:59. And now here's from Laurel and from
Oliver.
From Stanley and Oliver. We couldn't play videos again this morning, so I hope that we've kept you both informed and to some extent entertained. But I must say that the people outside who are now talking about us, they do say we like Laurel and Hardy, so we're happy to play that role and have a bit of fun in the process. So thank you for joining us, and I hope that you have a great day, as they say nowadays. Not sure that it's the sort of thing I would have said, but let's we'll see if this thing will play out saying goodbye.